Finally, after how long? I've been chasing you for, feels like, literally. Okay, let me tell you what.
Okay.
When I started this, because you and I met before either of us had any of our...
I had my business, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. But you were just looking to grow it to the next. I didn't have anything. Still don't.
I still remember.
And at that point, I was like, oh, I'll interview Chioma, and it'll be so easy to get Chioma to do an interview. Because, 2 years later, what's been going on with you?
Honestly, I think it's also when you're going through a period of growth and learning what you're doing, right? That's also what comes to play. And you're like, okay, am I going to go live and talk about what I'm doing? I don't know what it is yet.
Because it has morphed.
Exactly.
Okay, so first of all, introduce yourself. How would you introduce yourself? Because I'd love to know how you would introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Chioma Ifeanyi-Okoro. I am unapologetically Nigerian. I think that's very much comes through in my brand everywhere I have my brand presented. I am a problem solver. I'm a connector. And the way I express that is through two different businesses. So I have one called My African Corner, which that's the one that I had when we met. And with that one, we're helping Black entrepreneurs and professionals to grow in their businesses and careers. And so we do that through workshops, conferences, all of that stuff. And then I'm a speaker. So I actually host branding workshops at different universities, colleges, enterprises, different public institutions, I don't know, different groups. Everywhere, essentially, conferences, things like that. And then I also consult with clients, so one-on-one consulting. I have online courses as well around personal branding and business growth. And so that's been exciting, exploring that. So that's what I'm doing right now. So that's how I express my gifts right now.
The other business that you, although I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it something that you do through My African Corner, BUILDfest?
No, it's completely, it's BUILDfest, yes. So BUILDfest is through My African Corner. My African Corner, we have different signature events.
Okay.
So BUILDfest is one of them. We also have Dajara, which is our students program. And that one was because I struggled to find a job when I came here. So I moved here from Nigeria, and I struggled to find a job in Canada when I graduated from university. And so I said, how can we create a program that actually allows students to connect with mentors, because that's a big part of why people are not able to get jobs. Like, do I even know what exists? Do I know what I can be? And so we brought together students from across Ontario. We brought together mentors from major organizations across Ontario as well. We held this event at Mars Discovery District, which is an amazing organization here downtown Toronto. Well, this is Markham, but in downtown Toronto. That does incredible work around innovation and things like that. And so that was just an amazing event to have. And so we do different signature events like that.
Let's go back. So we're going to talk about all these business. Gosh, girl, exhausted just thinking about all your businesses. But let's go back to the beginning and start with, so you grew up in Nigeria.
I grew up in Nigeria, yes. Born and bred.
Tell me about that. What was that like? What was that experience like growing up in Nigeria? What was being a young girl in Nigeria like for you? Where in Nigeria did you grow up?
Lagos. Yeah, so I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. I went to boarding school for most of my life. So, well, that's a lie. I went to boarding school for 6 years of my life, which was really my formative years. And so that was very exciting. That was actually interesting because it was an all-girls school. It was a really big school too. It's called Queen's College. A lot of people in Nigeria know about Queen's College. Even non-Nigerians know about Queen's College. So it was kind of like living in a city, but you were in school because there's so many different experiences, so many different things you were learning, so many different kinds of characters. And I think some of that experience actually helped me with a lot of the stuff I'm doing now, which is being able to interact with different people regardless of where they come from, what they do, things like that. But also growing up, one of the things that my parents were really conscious of was exposing us to different experiences. So whether it be, music or art, or we would have different things that we'd do on Christmas Day, like we'd go to a fancy restaurant, and then we'd go through this whole thing, right? Or even traveling overseas. I'm privileged to have, I grew up with parents that, I was privileged to grow up in a home like that where my parents were able to afford those things. And so for them, it was about, how can we position you so that you're able to be exposed to all the different things that could potentially come your way in life? But they also took us to the market. So Tejo show markets, all the different things, taught you how to price everything. So it's so funny. I went on vacation to Nigeria in 2017. I think it was 2017. And one of my girlfriends, so in Lagos, Nigeria, there's the island and there's the mainland. So we go to a market on the island, and this is my friend who's like, she grew up in a sheltered home, like she's not really like, she's never really gone to the market by herself. And then we're in front of this guy, and like I came back from Canada, she came back from the UK, and then we had to price this thing because I was trying to buy a bag or something, and I became a totally different person, and she's like, what? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, my mom took me to the market when I was growing up. So which I think is very important, is like exposing your children to both, like helping them to see, one, the importance of giving back too. That's another important thing, right? But also taking them through that experience of like, this is what life is, right? And this is what you're going to experience as you grow up. And so that for me was really foundational in terms of helping me become who I am right now.
What's your biggest or greatest, what do you think was the biggest lesson that you learned from being in boarding school? Because like you say, it is a very different experience. You're in this, and especially with girls.
Yes.
Right? There's a lot of dynamics with girls, especially in the teen years.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned from
honestly,
being in boarding?
How to not get in trouble. Or how to dodge, like just, oh my gosh, there was so much running, like just running to get away from trouble. Or like, maybe you're in trouble, you're trying to get away from it. Like, there was just a lot of running. I just remember a lot of running. I think one of the things that school in particular helped me with was, again, and I mentioned this before, is just connecting with people, right? And understanding people, understanding the way people think, understanding how different dynamics come to play, right? All of that stuff. Like, I was exposed to so much in that school, and so I'm very, very grateful for that. But I think just understanding the way people think, I think that's one of the biggest things, and how to, of course, avoid trouble.
To avoid trouble. Did you know coming out of school that this is who I want to be? This is what my dream is. What was your dream for yourself as
okay, so when I was much younger, I was going to be an astronaut. Then I went to school and I realized.
And Nigeria does have a space agency.
They do?
Yes. Right, guys? We interviewed someone who
that's incredible.
Who worked at the Nigerian Space Agency.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to be an astronaut was because it just sounded really cool. Like, nothing to do with the actual science of being an astronaut.
Going into space.
Just like, I'm like, that just sounds like nothing nobody does. So, something that nobody really does. So, like, it'll be unique and cool, and like, I can talk about it. And then, of course, like, there was also the whole thing of, like, do I want to be a doctor, right? Typical African childhood. But
doctor,
I think,
lawyer, engineer.
Exactly, right? And so going to secondary school, one of the things that came out of that, because you had to pick whether you're going to be in business class or arts or sciences. I hated physics and chemistry. I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but no, like, I don't really want to. And so you had to just do one science if you weren't going to be in science class. I didn't really enjoy biology either, but I'm like, you know what? Biology, I can get with you for the next 3 years. It's all good. What I did enjoy, though, was business. And I realized I actually really did well, or really enjoyed accounting. And I was a numbers person. Like, I really enjoyed numbers. And so that was kind of where I naturally leaned towards.
Did you like math as well?
I did.
Oh,
and I did really well in math, yeah. And so it's interesting. So in my boarding school, I think in my class at the time, we were just slightly below 100 people in my class, which is a lot. So that wasn't just the whole arm.
Yeah.
So for example, not the whole arm, I meant to say the whole class. Mm-hmm. So we had arms within the school, so like 8 arms per class. Right, so if my class had like 80 people, there were 8 other arms within that particular set.
So this is in your. Do you have forms? Like
we have, yes.
Okay, so like in form, say form 2, yes. There's a class. There's 8 classes of 80 people.
But we didn't call it forms. It's called like JS1, JS2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you'd have like 8 different classes that were all part of that particular.
Wow. So it's a really big school.
Huge school. Yeah.
Wow. And so coming out, so you figured out. You liked math, you liked accounting, mm-hmm. but did that to you speak, oh, I can have a career this way? Or was it just like, oh, these are things that I like and I'll see where it's going to take me?
Option B. Option B, yeah, exactly, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time. It was just more so, let me see where this journey goes. I knew I was going to be coming here. Actually, I didn't know that at the time. I took a break, went to French school for a bit. I cannot speak French, so please do not speak French to me. But I did go to French school for 4 months, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, now we know why you don't speak, because you were having fun.
Yes, that's what it was. It was a lot of fun. So I took a year, did that, and then eventually came to Canada.
And so once you came to Canada, how did you end up in accounting?
Yeah, so I went to a school called well, it was a school in Baden, which nobody knows because it's not really on the map. And then after that, I went to University of Guelph. And it's so funny because when I first moved here, we had a person who was showing us around, and one of the things he said about Guelph was there are 7 women to 3 men. I think that number has gone up even more now. But it's an amazing, amazing school. Like, it was really good for school.
Wait, of all the stats they could tell you,
I know,
it was
right?
this one.
A young girl. I'm like, yeah, I'm
important information.
I'm like, I'm never coming here, right? But then, so it so happened that I graduated in December. So all the schools that would have taken me, they took me for September, but Guelph was the only school that took me for January. And I was like, but this is a school that had 7 girls to 3 guys. So I ended up going to Guelph. It was an amazing school, like in terms of like school content, all of that stuff. Small city though, so not a lot of social life. I remember I was moving from Lagos, Nigeria, which is like I always say, New York and steroids. And I'm like, where is my life going to go? I need to have fun. I'm a young girl, right? And so I moved to Toronto. Like I graduated in 3.5 years and decided, you know what, I'm going to move to Toronto.
And what did you study?
Business.
Business, okay.
Yes. So that was an easy choice, actually. I just decided, you know what, I'm good at business, I'm good at math, I'm good at numbers. I want to learn more about this industry. And so that was the natural next step.
And so you moved to the big city, to Toronto.
Yes.
And then?
My life was made.
And what were you moving to Toronto for? Like, what was it for?
Honestly, I had nothing. I just decided, you know what?
I still want to be in Guelph.
You know, it's funny because, so my lease was coming to an end and I had no job. I had no new lease. I had nothing. I'm like, I'm moving to Toronto though. I don't know how this is going to work, but it's just going to have to sort itself out. And so a few days before I was going to move, I actually found a place. And so I'm like, okay, everything else would just come together. And so I moved to my place and then I got a very random job. I'm not even going to talk about it on this. It was door to door. Actually, no, where it was street canvassing. And then I got promoted.
My daughter refers to that as street stalking.
Yes, yes. And you know, it's funny.
She did it. It's just like
funny because it's an amazing, what's it called? Teaching experience for sales. Because you learn how to get somebody's attention and learn
fast.
And they have quotas, so you have to actually get a specific number of people to sign up. If not, you get fired.
Wow.
Yeah, so they now moved me from street canvassing to door, which is where you actually have to go and knock on somebody's door that doesn't know you from Adam and
Was that a promotion going door to door?
It wasn't really a promotion. They just said, we think you'll be better at the doors. Which I was, by the way. Because on the street, I was always worried. Like, what if I see somebody who knows me on the street?
I just think, like, honestly, just going, I think that is I would imagine you would learn a lot.
A lot.
Because there's a lot of dynamics. Because you're trying to make eye contact with someone who's on the move. You've got to make the judgment about, are they going to stop? Are they not going to stop?
Yes.
Then you literally have like, 2 seconds to say something that'll make them, and it's in Canada, it's in winter.
Yes.
Ain't nobody want to stop.
Oh, this was summertime, thankfully.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, this was summertime. Okay. I wouldn't have lasted in the winter time. You know what? But like now that I'm like a few years in, one of the things I realized is when I was doing door-to-door canvassing, like I'm a Black woman knocking at people's doors. Back then, I wasn't thinking about that way because like I was a fresh grad from Nigeria. Like I didn't really think of myself. But now I'm like, whoa! And I was closing deals at the door, right? Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
The fact that was able to happen. Yeah.
What were you selling?
I'm not sure if I can say it.
Okay. Moving on.
Sponsorship or fundraising for different charity organizations, things like that. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that for?
It was about a month or 2 months. And then I eventually got a job in data entry. I know it's like you go to university and you spend all those years. My mom is like, I paid international school fees. And
international school fees.
And it's like 4 times the price, right? So she wasn't
having it. So you can do data entry?
Can you imagine? Anyway, but it was so funny because that job actually led to my next job, which was at BMO Capital Markets. And that was in anti-money laundering. And they were starting a new process. Mm-hmm. And so because I had data entry experience, plus like my undergrad, it was an easy transition for me to get into that.
And then what was it that made you decide that, because you got a whole lot of letters after your name that mean like you're super fancy. Like what was it that made you decide to go get the accounting designation? Like what was that thought process?
Yeah, so, oh goodness, there's so many stories of that. The short version, the short version is, so I have a CMA, right? And I know now the CPA has changed where they've merged all three together. At the time when I was doing the CMA was the strategy, it was focused on strategy, right? And one of the things, as I was looking through the different programs and what they had and what they were offering, the CGA seemed more like on the other side of things where you're creating the number of financial statements, things like that. The CMA was strategy, you're helping managers to make decisions, executives to make decisions, things like that, which is actually what I do right now in my work. And then the CA was focused on audit more so back in the day. Now everything's all together. So for me, that really spoke to me. I'm like, I want to be able to be part of the decision making. I want to be able to help executives to make the right decisions, all of that stuff. And I also really like the way the CMA was structured because they had cases, right? And I'm like, I don't want to just do a bunch of exams. Like, I want to be able to, like, solve problems, right? So I'm a problem solver. And so it really allowed me to do that. And we were working in teams as well. And so it was like a wonderful program, actually. We had teams, and in your team, you had to come up with different solutions to different cases, different industries. And so that exposure of just learning about the different industries and like solving problems in a group and getting different people's, because the group does based on our different experiences and expertise. And so it was great to learn from different people from different industries as well.
Yeah. And so you get this designation. And did you think when you were getting the designation, like what did you think, what was the career path that you were thinking about in getting the designation?
Yeah, the CPA is wonderful because the thing about it is it can apply to anything. Like even now, can I be honest, when I printed my business cards for my African corner and we didn't have my designation on there, people would take my card and they would smile or whatever and that's it. And they might contact me or not. But the minute we put my letters beside my name, oh my Lord, they're like, oh, and you're a CPA? And I'm like, yes, I am a CPA. And it changed everything. People actually reaching out to me. They're like, okay, because the thing about it is credibility. When an organization is backing you saying this person is one of ours, like that actually adds a lot of credibility to your name. And it's funny because since then I've gotten even more involved with the CPA. So they have an emerging leaders advisory board that they just launched. And so I've been on that for about a year or two now. And so, sorry, this is year 2. So yeah, and that's been just exciting, just learning more about the designation and where they're taking it. And it's just, they're really innovating and things like that. But to be honest with you, going back to your question about like, when I got the designation, it was, I did not know what I was going to do in future. I just knew that it was going to help me, right? And at the time I had just, I was at RBC for a bit. So I was working at RBC. That's when I first started the program. And I was working in asset management. And then I moved on to a company called Points. And in Points, I was actually working in the strategy team. So the CPA was directly applicable to what I was doing at work. And so in terms of what I was going to do in future, I did not know what it was going to be, but what I knew was that I was going to get paid a lot more money because I had a designation.
Make it rain.
Right? I'm an Igbo girl after all, and Igbo people are known for liking money. I'm like, I don't know what's going to
got a money gun. That's something I just learned about. My nephew just got a money gun.
My God.
He got some money for doing some chores or whatever, and his mom asked him, what would you want to buy? A money gun.
Nice. So I can get some more money. That's my kind of boy. Yeah.
But you get paid more because you have, again, the credibility of this designation that says you do know what you're talking about.
Exactly. And you've gone through a rigorous program as well, right?
Yeah. Were you thinking entrepreneurship at all along this journey?
I always knew that it was in me. I just didn't know when, right? So I go to an amazing church here in Toronto, and one of the things my pastor always talks about is business, like starting a business, right? And I would always go for those seminars. I had no idea what my business was going to be. I was just like, I'm just going to keep going and just figure it out as I go, right? And then I started, the year I actually started my business, I think the year before I had been reading books. So I created a book club with some women. It's called The Winning Circle. We still exist. And we still meet like every 2 months. And I'm like, hey guys, I only read fiction. I need to read more professional books. So I'm going to create a group and we're all going to come together and discuss books.
For me, I want to read.
It's for me, but it's for us. Right? And we're all going to grow, right? And that was kind of how that started. So created this group. And we would have conversations about different books that we'd read, and people started growing in their careers and growing in different things and getting promotions because we're all sharing, right?
What were some of the books that you were reading?
So we read, the first one was Lean In, of course. We read, oh my gosh, so many different books. Year of Yes. Just think about, amazing. Shonda Rhimes. There's so many different books that we read. Like whatever business book you can think about, we read. And I'm like, guys, it's going to be business books, not fiction. They love fiction so much. Every time I have a fiction book, everybody shows up. I'm like, look at you. you. You won't show up for the business books. But so we've continued to do that, and it's just been so through doing that, I was learning a lot. So I wasn't just reading books with the ladies because I was reading books with them. I also started reading 2 books a month on my own, and that just expanded my mind. And around the same time too, a friend of mine got into Wharton MBA, and I'm like, you know, like when a friend, you're like, right? Like I can connect with them. Like you did that, so I could do that too, right? And then another friend of mine was going off to med school in the Caribbean, and she was going to have to pay $500K plus or less, like around $500K for her education. And for so long, I had wanted to do an MBA at Harvard, and I kept saying to myself, well, it's so expensive, all that stuff. So when those 2 things happened around the same time, I'm like, let's go explore this. Right, and around the same time, the Harvard MBA conference, Harvard African MBA conference is happening, and I think it was a week or 2 to the event. I'm like, I didn't have a ticket, I hadn't bought a flight, I'm like, I'm going to this conference. This was like, I think I was at church on Sunday or something, and my friend just told me that he got in or something. I'm like, look, I'm going to this conference. I'm going to this conference. So I bought it was really expensive, bought my flight ticket, bought my ticket to the conference, and then went there. And oh my gosh, my mind was so like, just blown away, just meeting all those incredible Africans from across the world, just doing incredible things. All the speakers were amazing. I'm like, okay. So that was like a seed planted in my mind. And then one day, so I'm part of a WhatsApp group of women, and somebody had sent a post about a girl in the States who was doing this fashion brand, and she had an e-commerce website, and she was doing incredible work. And she was featured in Forbes. I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, this is just, like, why is nobody creating anything for everything, right? Why is it just e-commerce? Why can't I find a hairdresser in Guelph, right? Where I went to school to do my hair, right? And so I wanted to create a hub for people to find all things African. And that's kind of how my African Corner came about. So when that idea came to me, because once she sent that, again, all these other things had happened before this, right? So I had gone for the Harvard African MBA conference. I had gone for, I had started reading 2 books a month. Oh, by the way, after I went to the conference, I decided I was going to go to Harvard. So I actually started studying for my GMAT. I'm like, I'm going to go to Harvard. All my passwords were Harvard. I'm like, I'm going to Harvard. Anyway, and so I'm like, okay, let's create this hub. And so I reached out to one of my good friends. He's really good at creating websites. I'm like, okay, let's talk some more about this. And he's also very much connected within the African community here. And so we had coffee, and then we said, okay, we're going to do this. And then we left it at that. And this was like probably summertime of that year. And we didn't do anything about it until I quit my job in December.
And what was the prompt or the trigger for you quitting your job? Because that seems like a drastic action for this thing that
I know
you hadn't done anything with.
And I hadn't, yeah, exactly, right? And it's funny because so when I talk to my clients these days, I'm like, look, you make sure you have a safety. I have no regrets, 0. Like I wouldn't have done it any other way. But I say to people, if you love good things, stay in your job. You know, if you want to travel and do all those other things, like until your business is making enough where you can have the same kind of lifestyle, like maybe wait a little bit, right? But honestly, with a business, it was time. Like I had plugged out. I was in an amazing job, like amazing company points, just incredible people. But I knew I had plugged out, and I knew I was ready for my next challenge. And I'm like, oh, I had this thing with my friend that we never really, built upon. And oh, by the way, the whole Harvard story. So I had done the Harvard. I had done my GMATs. I had great scores, all that stuff. I already had a mentor that was going to mentor me into how I could actually get into the program through platform called YAM, so Young African MBAs. They support people to help them to support people Africans who are interested in MBAs. They mentor them to help them get into the MBA schools and stuff. And then I decided, okay, I started finding all these resources in Toronto on innovation, on entrepreneurship, on different things. And I'm like, do I really need to go and get an MBA in entrepreneurship? Or can I actually become an entrepreneur and then figure out if I still want to do an MBA, but maybe in something else that will actually help the entrepreneurship? Right? And so that was how that whole thing started. And then, so in December of that year, it was after a meeting at work. I just walked up to my boss. I'm like, I think I need to talk to you. The most chill conversation. He was very supportive too. Most chill conversation ever. I'm like, I think I need to talk to you. And then I put in my notice. And so I think I probably spoke to him earlier on in December. And then my notice was in January. So yeah, that was kind of how it happened. and I haven't looked back since.
Do you think that because you'd made this drastic step of quitting your job, that it almost then you had to make this work, right?
Essentially.
Yeah. Because sometimes I think that is what stops some people, because we're kind of sort of comfortable over here, and then we don't give the side thing as much effort because I'm kind of comfortable over here. And so it either takes time or we just never end up getting this off the ground, right?
You know what I found though? So in being an entrepreneur I've been an entrepreneur now for 3 years, is finding the resources. So while you're in your 9-to-5 job, finding the resources that would help you with your side hustle so you can accelerate it, right? Because I've been buying online courses from people, and I know people talk about the online course industry, and that's a whole other conversation, but I have learned so much in the last little while. And this is not formal courses from like just, you know what I mean? It's like from institutions, which by the way, you should also do those. Like I just took a course actually at through MIT. They have a design thinking course that I just took, which was great. But it's like people who have done it before you, people who are actually doing the thing that you want to do, right? And I'm like, okay. So I started investing in those courses like last year. I think it was either earlier on last year or the year before, just towards the end of the year. And it's made a dramatic difference in my business and the way I see different things, because you're thinking about, say, even I just recently bought a course on like systems and, bringing in a VA and bringing in different teams, because now I'm growing my team. I was like, what does that look like? And how do you set up your team, right? I could probably find a course online, like from an institution and things like that. But this is a course from a woman who's built a multi-million dollar businesses, right? And she's done this several times over, and she has a team and things like that. And so learning from her, oh my gosh, like has just been incredible, right? So I think sometimes even while you're in your 9-to-5 job is in making that investment to learn the different things and actually putting to plan, like creating a plan, a roadmap of how you're going to execute every day to get you that much closer to the thing that you want to do. Because so many times you have a job and they're like, okay, we're comfortable, but we don't have plans. We're just like, oh, when I have time, I'll do this. Or when I have time, okay, what is your schedule for this week? Like, what are you working on this week to actually help you with your business, right? So, yeah.
And so you quit your job and you start building this thing. Mm-hmm. Did you know what it was going to be? Like, what were you building? When you quit your job and said, I'm going to build this thing, what was it you were building?
A hub to find all things African. To find a hairdresser.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, so that was what we were building at the time. It's since it evolved dramatically, because as I was building, one of the things that happened was I was trying to get into a lot of incubator programs, get into different accelerator programs, things like that, and I was always getting this pushback of like, what are you building, right? Like, what are you doing? And I also discovered that not just me, but other women in my network who look like me were also facing that pushback. So I'm like, how can we innovate if we're not at the table, right? If we're not having access to different things and different groups and things like that. And so it became important for me to create something that would actually help people, whether they be small business owners or people in tech or even professionals, to actually be able to access that kind of education. And so with My African Corner, actually from day one, we've been doing workshops. So when we launched our first of all, we didn't launch the website for a very long time. Big mistake.
Why was that?
So I think this is also comes to entrepreneurship education, because people don't realize you actually need to learn entrepreneurship. It's not like, like you go to school for business, like just
wake up and know it, right?
Right? It's like you go to school for business, you go to school for all those different things. You also need to learn entrepreneurship. You also need to learn money, like all those different things in life. So entrepreneurship, MVP, right? Minimum viable product. This is something that we talk about a lot now. People don't know what a minimum viable product is, right? Like if you're not an entrepreneur, you've probably never heard the term before. So I always recommend the book Lean Startup. Like that's a great book that explains exactly what that is. But in simple terms, an MVP is essentially you present your unfinished product that looks really, really bad to your potential client. You get them to test it, right? They test it and they tell you what they think. And then you evolve. Think about Instagram, constantly evolving. Now we have Instagram stories. Now Instagram stories are a whole thing. Now we have stickers and like all these gifts and like all these different things that you can add to your Instagram stories to make it interesting, right? They're constantly evolving because they're learning from us. The same thing with business, right? So with our website, we were waiting to have different things in place before we launched. And so we waited, I think, for at least 11 months or 10 months or something like that. And I'm like, we should have just launched from day one, because we already had the framework, and people could actually submit their own, because the way it was set up was similar to a Yelp, right? Like you can find the different businesses. It was pretty though. It was really pretty. It wasn't like Yelp. We had beautiful pictures. People could find different things, different pictures about different businesses, whether it be, oh, I'm looking for a bow tie that's Ankara, like, different things. So people could find all that stuff. And so we could have launched that on day one. But because we were waiting for it to be perfect, and then so much time had gone by, and people kept asking me, when is it coming? Is it coming? So I'm like, okay, when we actually launch, it has to be big. It has to be pretty, right? And it's so funny because when we eventually launched, we launched silently because I'm like, why? Let's not call too much attention to the fact that we're just launching. And just, by the way, we launched. But before we actually launched, we had a big event called the Afripreneur Social, and it was like this gathering of Black entrepreneurs and professionals, and it was just incredible. We had amazing speakers. Jerry Yonge, who's like recognized by Forbes as one of the top women in Africa, just incredible woman. Adiola, I'm going to say her last name wrong, but she's just an incredible woman who had a PhD from Nova Scotia, just doing incredible things. Sorry, it's not Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan. A university in Saskatchewan. Just incredible woman doing amazing things. And this was just when she had just graduated from her school. And then we had all those professionals, and we had artists, and it was a whole experience. And by the way, we still had no website. But people showed up. We had over 100 people show up, and it was
how do people know about the events you were doing?
Yeah, so community partnerships. And I think that's a big part of it is community partnerships, your network, right? Because I had been volunteering in the past. So even while I was in university, when I first moved to Toronto, like I've been volunteering for years. So I'm going to say like half of the people there probably already knew me. And then the other half were like maybe a friend told them, or like they had somebody else from a group that was part of the community in terms of whether it be a professional group, professional network, or a group like Ndini Media, right? That was connected in some way to entrepreneurship or professional development and things like that. And so just partnering with those people who were aligned and finding ways that we could also add value to them was a big part of that. Yeah.
That's actually one of your key strengths. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think you said it at the top when you're introducing yourself, is connecting people, community and connecting. Like when I think of you, those are like some of the key things. Mm-hmm. The words that come to my mind when I think of you is hustle, in terms of, not in a bad way, but in terms of, I feel like you're someone who you'll do what you need to do to make things happen, and you make things happen.
Thank you.
But it's also how you're very much, even if you think about what you were trying to do with My African Corner in its very first iteration, it was all about community and providing community and connection. Why is that so important to you, the whole community connection?
Yeah, I've never actually stopped to think about why that's important to me, to be honest with you. It's just always come naturally to me. So I'm going to start from when I was even much younger. So when I was in primary school, so this is a lie. I was probably in nursery school or primary school in Nigeria, and I was connecting people on the playground. And that was my role, right? So it's always been my role in my networks. I'm always the person who knows somebody or knows a resource or knows something. And I'm like, how can I get this to more people, right? And I think that's an important skill to have. But we all have our different gifts, and we all have our different ways that we're adding value to society. I've discovered that is my gift. And so I'm like, in the different ways and in different ways I show up in different rooms, how can I continue to do that work? The rooms have gotten much bigger. I'm getting much bigger opportunities, but I'm also getting to bring my community along with me. And for me, just the satisfaction of seeing somebody like in my network being able to do something amazing, for me, that's just incredible, because somebody else is going to get an opportunity because of that person as well. And it's a ripple effect, right? The more we do for other people, the more there's a ripple effect that just creates change within the different environments that we function in. Yeah.
But Chioma, that's not a mindset that a lot of people have, because there are a lot of people who are as long as I'm okay and I found this option, I'm going to keep it to myself so that other people don't know that I have it. So that actually is, as you said, it's a gift. You do have a very special gift, because it'd be easy for you. And I know, like, I'm around you somewhat, and I see, I've stalked you on social media. I see the rooms you move in now and the levels that you're at. And that's something, even if I look at what you've done, and let's talk about it with BUILDfest. That's very much another thing where it's like, let me bring my community together and let me bring them resources that can help them. Because at BUILDfest, it really was, and you tell me what the mandate was, but as someone who attended, it really was helping me think about, this whole concept of MVP, like there were workshops around creating your MVP and how do you do that, and stuff that literally our group was like, we have a business here. Like, what's your number? Let's
Yeah.
But yeah, what? So with BUILDfest, what was your thinking about creating that?
So I always think of myself as a vessel, right? And I think that also comes from my Christianity and like my mom and my dad and the way I grew up. And everything that comes to me is supposed to flow through me. So I always tell people, when you put your hand like this is all you will ever hold. So when you close your fist, that is all you will ever hold. But just imagine for a second, right? So if you have both arms or both hands, right? And you do like this, right? You close your fist. This is all you can ever hold. But when you open your palms and you put them together, look at how much more you have. And then it's overflowing on the other sides, right? And so it's like, if it's coming to me, and by the way, the more I open doors for people, the more doors open for me, because it's all about, it's a ripple effect. But I don't do it because I want doors to open for me. I do it because I genuinely want to see that person succeed. And I think it's a way of thinking. And the more I do that, the more I spend positive energy, the more it comes to me. And I'm just like, that just happened. Wow. And it was so easy, right? But what you put out is what you get back, right? In terms of BUILDfest, oh my gosh, like, where do you want me to start? Like, honestly, like, BUILDfest almost killed me. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. So glad you enjoyed it. But honestly, the planning, and I think that's one of the things. So for me, it was always about, I want to create this platform. So back to the story of like, I struggled to get into programs and I know so many people in my network who struggled as well. I wanted to create something that people just needed to plug in and come through, right? Like just show up, essentially. Like pay, buy your ticket and then show up and then enjoy the experience, right? And I also wanted it to be impactful, so practical steps, right? Which is something that, like, regardless of what I do, I'm like, people need tangible outcomes. What am I walking away with? What can I actually take and implement in my business the next day, right? And it's the same thing I do with my other business as well. When I'm consulting with clients, it's like, here you go. Here's what you can actually now go and implement in your business the next day. So with BUILDfest, I'm like, how can we walk people through from start? Essentially, I have an idea. Like, I don't even know if this can be a business. I don't even know anything, to like closing bigger deals from start to finish. So wherever you are, regardless of what kind of business you operate, you're able to find yourself somewhere in that chain. So sales and marketing, PR, you know what I mean? All the things that you need to run a business, essentially. And so that was the goal. But I'm like, I want to do this big. And I want people to enjoy themselves and have fun and eat. Because, you know, Africans like food. Like, you don't have food at your event. I remember the 2 times I had pizza at my event. Oh, my gosh. People, because we always send out surveys. The surveys came back, they're like, I'm like, what do we need to fix? They're like, the food. I'm like, okay, so we need some jollof, we need some African food, you know, some puff puffs, some meat pies, you know, make the people happy. So with BUILDfest, that was my goal, like to create an African experience, but around innovation, right? Like create something that we can call our own, but with innovation at the center of it, and people actually walking away with tangible outcomes. And so I think the harder part, because everything else was relatively easy to put together. The harder part was the corporate partnerships, right? And securing those partnerships, securing those checks, because everything relies on that, right? Ticket sales will not be able to cover all the jollof and the event space and all that stuff. It really boils down to the corporate partners. And I'm really grateful for, you know, organizations like CIBC that we partner with here in Toronto that's just, you know, come and back us up. And Facebook was a partner for this particular event. And so really grateful for them as well. And it's really, in partnerships, is thinking about what is in it for them as well, too. Because so many people approach me for partnerships and they just come at it as, here's what you can do for me. And I'm like, that's so lovely. What about me, though? What about me, right? Because if it's partnership, then it's partnership. If it's mentorship, then it's mentorship. Those are 2 different things, right? And so getting very clear about what you're offering the other person as well. Yeah.
And what this is one of the things that, as I said earlier, is that was very much like they were tangible, and you had so many. Like, gosh, I can't even imagine the work that went into putting it together, because there were hands-on workshops. Like we literally sat at a table, 6 of us, whatever, and actually hands-on went through the exercise of what does it take to build a business, and then hands-on had people, you know, talking you through PR, hands-on building a brand and all of that kind of stuff. And so for you, is that where you want My African Corner? What's your vision for where you want My African Corner to go?
So My African Corner is going to be a problem solver. So it's essentially taking things that I do, and so I call it my give back arm, essentially. So it's my way of giving back, and it's finding problems within our community, right? So whether it be students not having access to jobs, right? Like how can we create a platform or create an event that is curated for them where it can actually provide them a great way to connect with mentors and to be able to get jobs longer term. Or for entrepreneurs and professionals, okay, I need to think innovatively within my career. How can I think? How can I grow within my career? How can I build my business, right? I don't know where I'm starting from. By the way, these are questions people have asked me. Like, I don't know what incorporation is. Like, where do I start with that? Not really sure about the sales and marketing thing. How do I use Instagram for business? How do I, like, you know what I mean? Like, questions that people have come to me with time and time again. I'm like, okay, putting together a conference. Just show up, though. Right? And so that was really what that was for me. But also questions like, okay, how do I close the bigger deals? Like I already have a business. I've been in business for some time now. How can I close a bigger deal? How can I secure a partnership? How can I get featured in the media, right? How can I amplify my impact? How can I scale, right? So things like that, or how can I raise money, right? Which was another conversation that we had there. That's a very big conversation within our community as well. And so finding ways to incorporate that into what we do. So I'm definitely hoping to bring BUILDfest back next year as well. As well as other workshops and things that are interesting and would really add value to our community.
Now you have My African Corner
Yes.
and all of the things that you do there, but you also consult.
I do.
So tell me about that and what you offer in terms of consulting services.
Yeah, so with consulting, there's different levels. So I'm a speaker, right? So I work with universities, colleges, things like that, enterprises I mentioned before. So that's one level. I also have online courses that I sell, right, that are on personal branding and business growth. Again, the reason why I started that was because I was getting a lot of questions. People kept asking me, how do I do this? How do I do this? I'm like, okay, I will create something that you can that's actually practical and that you can implement, and that would help you with what you're trying to do. The other part of that was also I got tired of seeing people in my network who I know are like value providers, like people who are about their business, not getting the opportunities they deserve. And so for me, I'm like, how can I create something that makes sense for people where they can actually grow from it? And then I consult one-on-one as well. And next year, I'm actually going to be launching more of my enterprise consulting, right? So bringing together strategy. So with my consulting is two aspects. So there's personal branding and there's business growth. On the business growth side of things, there's strategy, design thinking, which is why I took that course at MIT, which was actually really good. And so focusing more on that and what that would look like, not just for clients in Canada, but how can I bring that skill set and my network too, because I've built a network here within the tech ecosystem to the African continent. Like, what does that look like, right? How can I be a value provider on the continent as well? I think whatever we do, we always have to be thinking about how can I bring what I'm doing here and impact the continent in a way that is valuable for the continent, but also makes sense for me and who I say I am.
What's been your biggest challenge in the almost 4 years of entrepreneurship?
Oh, goodness. Okay. 3 things that come to mind. One is saying no. Like, I just need to say more no's. It's a thing.
Yeah, I know that. You've been saying no to me for 2 years.
No. I wasn't saying no. I was saying not yet. No, the thing is I overcommit sometimes, right? And just being able to I think this year was really good for that in terms of getting clarity on what I really wanted to focus on and what my key strengths were, because I was getting pulled into many different directions. And sometimes when you're in these rooms, you're the only one who looks like you. So people are pulling you for different things. And I'm like, actually, I know a girl who's in that industry can help you with that, right? And so that's been my shift right now. The second thing is systems, right? Systems, whether it be systems in your team, whether it be systems in terms of how people access you or access different things that you offer, or even your standard, the way you do business, essentially. The last thing I would say is money, right? Which I think a lot of business owners make that mistake of not understanding value and what that means and what a profit is, what a loss is, and like all these different things. What is a budget? What is revenue? What is income? All these different things. And how is your business going to make money? Which is something I ask everybody I work with now, like my clients. I'm like, how does your business make money? Because so many times we're so like moved by passion and what we're working on, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be so beautiful. I'm gonna spend all this money on all the branding, and I'm like, but did you make money this month? Right? And so it's like just being able to know where you are. Back to the MVP idea that I mentioned before. You're in the MVP phase. In the MVP, oh goodness, can I say this word? MVP. in the MVP phase, you're not focused on branding. You're testing, right? So acknowledging where you are in business and being able to have your impact there and make the changes that you need to make. So with my other business, it's called Kisandu actually. So with Kisandu, I was in the MVP stage this year. So I've been doing this consulting work for some time now, but I officially incorporated the business this year. And so I was in the MVP stage for much of this year, but now I'm like, okay, now we're ready to do some serious work next year, right? And so what does that look like, right? And now that I'm in that level, on that stage, I can actually spend more money on branding, more money on a website, more money on different things. I had a website this year. My website was all for email collections. That's all it is. Oh, by the way, always be collecting emails. Always be collecting people's contacts because that's a way of staying in touch with people and getting them to actually do business with you in future. So throughout this year, my website has been in the MVP phase of MVP stage of just collecting emails. And next year is going to actually be a website where people can come and book stuff, right? And so knowing where you are in business and investing based on where you are. Yeah.
Why did you call your company that? Why did you call it Kisandu? Yeah.
It means spread life to all. Yeah, and it's Igbo, so really speaks to me.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep. All right, so you're all about spreading life to all.
Yes.
What brings you the greatest joy?
Oh, man. So many things. Greatest joy, I would say life, like just being alive, being able to create the way that makes sense for me. I'm an artist as well, so my art is writing. I know people are like, you don't paint. I'm like, I'm an artist. I write.
Writing is art.
Right? So and I love other expressions of art as well. So being able to create in a way that makes sense for me. Love, friends, right? Having good relationships, like people who actually speak for you. And like when you're not in certain rooms, they're like, oh, this person needs to get into this room. How can I invite them? Like that brings me a lot of joy. Yeah.
Has that been your experience that there are people who...
So many. Over 100. Over 100.
Wow.
Over 100. My journey has been guided by a village. I always say this. Has been guided by a village of people who are just like, Chioma, you need this. Here you go. But it also goes back to, are you also that person? Because sometimes we're expecting to get and we haven't been given, right? And it's like, the more you give, again, back to the idea of your hands are open, right? And you're able to impact more people. And because people can see you doing that, they're like, if I impact this person, so I have a mentor, she knows that every time she impacts me, she's impacting at least 10 other people. And so because her mission is to impact a million people in her lifetime, she's like, if I give to Chioma, then she's going to help 10. So that's 11. So it's adding towards her number of a million, right? So ripple effect, right? So that's really what it boils down to.
And what's your greatest dream for
Chioma? For Chioma, so many great dreams. Honestly, I think my biggest goal in life is just to help people see their value, to help people truly see themselves for what they are, and not just to see themselves, because empowerment is great, no, but like, how can I strategically position myself so that I'm able to be all that I was put on this earth to be, right? So providing them with practical tools, practical steps, things like that, and then dancing through any situation, just smiling through anything. I like to think of myself as a warrior woman. I'm like, yes, okay, that was a punch, but I'm back up. It hurt for a little bit, but I'm back, right? So that's kind of what it is.
You have so much going on, so much going on.
Oh, man.
What are you most excited about right now as you go into
2020?
Yes.
Honestly, I started this journey not knowing what it was going to look like, and every day has just dramatically just surprised me. Like, I couldn't, I honestly, I'm just grateful for all the opportunities that come my way, and I know that there's so many more doors that are going to open, and I'm just like looking forward to that. I think above all, like just being in the right place at the right time, being in my calling, being in who I was created to be, and being able to fully express what that means to me. I think that is something I'm looking forward to doing more of in 2020.
So you talked about having mentors and having, incredible people who've impacted your life. What's been the best advice that you've been given, or some of the best advice that you've been given?
Yeah. Hashtag do it afraid. That is, I say it all the time. Do it afraid. Hashtag just show up. I've shown up so many times, even sometimes when I wasn't registered for the event. And I showed up anyway, and I'm like, I'm here though. You're going to send me back home? And some of those opportunities have led to, like just showing up, have led to awards, have led to meeting CEOs, have led to meeting executives, meeting just incredible people doing incredible work. And so I always tell people, like, because when I first started My African Corner, honestly, I was going to 5 events a week. 5 events, and I would introduce myself to anybody who came to talk to me, or anybody I walked up to, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing, and you should care, right? And I think that's something that we need to carry. We need to be proud of who we are. And every room I'm in, I'm a CEO of a global company. Regardless of where my company is at, I think just that mindset of showing up as 100% CEO of a global company, in my mind, showing up as my authentic self. So every room I show, I said I'm unapologetically Nigerian. That is who I show up as, 100. I'm like, look, I'm not leaving any part of her at home today. All of her is coming with me, right? And just being genuine, right? Being good vibes, being a warrior woman, knowing how to bounce back. What does that look like for me and for, I guess, people as they think about their journeys, and just understanding that it's a journey. Like, you're not going to figure it out in one day. I'm still figuring out my life, right? And so it's a journey. Enjoy the process. Learn quickly, all the different things, all the different lessons. If you can even learn from people who came before you, even better, because then there's some things that you don't need to go through, right? And so, yeah.
So you say learn from people who went before you. Who are some people that you look up to who inspire you?
Oh man, so many. So my mom, for sure, she is a boss, so many levels. I think back to like my childhood and just watching her go to work and all the things that so she speaks globally as well. She's won so many awards, just an incredible woman. So definitely somebody that inspires me. So many African women. I listen to so many different people. Rukwa Woshika, Udo Konjo. Some people might not know this women, but they're just incredible women based in Nigeria who are just doing, like, they're just bosses. Like, that's all I can describe. Of course, Oprah, Michelle Obama, Lisa Nichols. So many, like, people who inspire me, people who show up, regardless of what the day throws at them, and they keep betting on themselves. Those people are my people.
And what are you most grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for, I think I may have said this before, but just life, really. Like, being able to create a ripple effect. I think that's what it is. I remember a friend of mine applied for an award because they saw me on a website. They're like, this person's on a website, so I'm going to apply for this award. And it was a big award. Like, it was something very, you know what I mean? And I think representation matters a lot. And we don't realize, because one of the things I never realized starting My African Corner was the representation. The idea of representation and what that actually means. Because again, I grew up in Nigeria. Everybody's Black in Nigeria. I never had to deal with racism or anything like that, right? And so for me, it's like every time I do something or I have a success of some sort, it's not just mine, it's ours, right? We're all in this together, essentially. And every time I'm making a decision, I have to also think about, what does this mean, right? And will my future self be grateful that I did this thing, right? And so, yeah.
So you talk about your future self.
Yes.
What's the impact you want to have in the world?
Oh, man. I wrote on my Instagram, so I used to have another Instagram page that I wrote on some time ago that I wanted to impact 100,000 people. So send 100,000 kids to school and feed 100,000. I've changed that since then to a much bigger number.
Say the number so we can hold you accountable. No, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
This is a conversation actually that's come up for me a lot recently, is that sometimes we're afraid to put out our big dreams because either A, we think, well, what if I don't get there? Or B, what will people think? Like, people will think I'm arrogant in some way if I say I want to impact 1 million lives.
Yeah.
But then the other way that you can spin that is, if you tell me that, oh, I want to impact 1 million lives. I want to feed 1 million kids. I want to send 1 million kids to school. Now, when I'm out in the world and I meet someone and then, oh, Chioma.
Yes.
Then people make the case, hey,
true.
there's this girl I know who's trying to do this thing.
Yeah.
So put it out there.
Yes. Amen. 1 million.
Then people can help you get there.
Okay, 1 million people. I'm going to say this, though. So 1 million.
But not like 1 million people.
No, 1 million
Let's
people.
say it with conviction.
1 million people. Oh man, I just feel like I won $1 million. But honestly, 1 million people, but in a way that is impactful, right? So not so much, because I think at the time I wrote it, this was fresh off of a trip to Ghana where I went with the Right to Play organization. At the time, Points, actually the company I used to work for, they had sent me there for a trip. And so that was what my perspective at the time. But for me now, it's like not just impacting 1 million people, it's like creating jobs for them so that they can impact their generations to come, right? And then with the children, it's like, okay, creating a platform so that they can actually be educated and be able to use those skills for something, which also creates a ripple effect within society. So, which also plugs back into my tie back into the African continent. So I know I have a big focus on entrepreneurship. I have built this network here within the tech ecosystem. And what does that look like for me, right? How can I impact entrepreneurs on the continent, or, you know, also students, right? So kids in schools, what does like technology look like for the continent? I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now, but in terms of innovation and what are we doing differently and how are we going to stay ahead of the curve? Because we always leapfrog different things. So how can we become, you know, the go-to for certain things, and how can I be a player in that space as well?
You're doing big things.
Thank you.
And I feel like truly, as I say, like I met you back when my African corner was just, and so for me in the short space of time, the 2-3 years that it's been, to see what you've grown it to, and to be able to firsthand sit in a room, standing room, only room, and see this is what you've created, that all of these people are in this room, are learning, are benefiting real life knowledge that people are like, oh my gosh, I can go do this, or oh my gosh, I'm going to share this with other people. That's an incredible thing that you're doing. And I only see it growing exponentially because, and I also feel that part of why, and I know for you, on the inside, sometimes on the inside, it feels like you're just like, and like, you know, like you're just going like crazy.
Hurricane.
Exactly. And it's hard for you to step back and see it objectively and see that, wow, in this short time, this is what I've been able to grow. And so what I believe as well is the reason you've been able to grow, and the reason that this will grow exponentially is because it's coming from where it comes from. And anything you do will just be blessed because it is coming from a place that is pure and is coming from a place that is intended to benefit many.
Thank you.
So
thank you. I appreciate
you
that.
will do incredible things. I know
Thank
that.
you, girl.
So to finish, I just want to ask you one last question. So this platform is called Ndini because I named it after, I named it from my mother tongue, Shona. I'm from Zimbabwe, and it means I am in my mother tongue, and I believe in the power of your words shaping your destiny. So finish the sentence for me. I am.
I am a child of the Most High God. I'm unstoppable. I'm a warrior woman. I'm a giver. I'm a mom at some point. I'm blessed.
Chioma, I'm so glad after chasing you, literally chasing you. I think every venue, I think you would like, we'd be at the same events and you'd be like, oh, there she is. She's gonna ask me. She's gonna ask me, when are you coming? I'm so glad we got to have this conversation.
Likewise.
I'm so glad. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm so proud of you too.
So incredibly
I'm
proud
so
of you.
proud of you.
Where can people find you? Because I know you're making big moves and you're going to be offering all kinds of things that, you know, with the different platforms. So where can people find you so that we can follow you, we can hear what's coming, what's new with you?
So my platforms are Chioma.io across the board. So CHIOMAIO, ChiomaIO.com. And then I have a free course actually that people can get, and it's called getbookedcourse.com. So just get GETBOOKED course.com. And then my African Corner is just at my African Corner.
We will link to all of that. And yes, continued success, continued
Thank
grace,
you, girl.
continued fabulousness.
Amen.
Thank you, Chioma.
Thank you, girl.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Oh, I think I just dropped my mic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, honey.
Here's what I'd love to ask you as our community. So I want to know from you, who do you want me to have on the show? Who would you like me to interview? Who are some of the amazing women whose stories you would like for us to share on this platform? If you have any fantastic ideas, and even better, if you can connect me with them, please comment, leave your comment, or DM me and tell me who are some incredible stories I should be sharing on this platform. And the other ask that I have of you is for you to subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and share. Please share. If you find any of our interviews inspiring, please share them with your friends and family.